They said no woman could last 7 days with Elias Boone. Up there, where the timberline met the sky and the wind carried secrets, his cabin sat like a scar against the mountain, half buried in snow, half swallowed by rumor. Folks in town whispered that he was half wild, half ghost, and wholly impossible to love. But one morning, under a sky pale as milk, the stage rolled in carrying something the mountain didn't expect. A woman with a round laugh and soft hands who wasn't afraid of cold or silence. Her name was Maybelle Carter. The coach wheels hissed to a stop outside Weaver's Post, and every head turned. She stepped down slow, her boots sinking into frost, her cheeks red from the ride. She clutched a small tin of biscuits like it was treasure. Hank Dobson leaned from his forge and said what everyone was thinking. "No one lasts a week with Boone, miss. Best keep your bag close." Maybelle smiled, gentle but unbent. "I don't run easy," she said. Mrs. Weaver handed her a sealed envelope, Boone's only letter. One line, in blunt handwriting. "If you're coming, bring quiet." She read it twice, then tucked it into her coat pocket. Her heart ached, but not from fear. She had been laughed at her whole life, for her weight, her softness, her dreaming heart. The men who wanted mail-order brides never wanted her. Until now. She came not chasing love, but a chance to belong somewhere that wouldn't send her away. By afternoon, she was on the trail. The climb up the mountain was a slow hymn of creaking saddle leather, snow whispering off pines, and Boone's silence pressing close. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his face carved by years of solitude. When he looked at her, it was with suspicion, as if he couldn't decide whether she was real. When they reached the cabin, dusk had swallowed the forest. The door groaned open on a single room of shadows, smoke, and the faint scent of pine tar. She set her tin on the table. He didn't touch it. He showed her where the spare blanket lay, nodded once, then disappeared outside. That night, she whispered into the dark, "Lord, if I can't be loved, at least let me be useful." In the morning, Boone found her sweeping the porch. Her breath fogged the air as she hummed an old hymn. He paused at the woodpile, axe in hand, the sight of her strange and warm against all that cold. No woman before had hummed here. No woman before had stayed long enough to. The days turned like pages. He spoke little. She didn't demand words. Instead, she cooked quietly, her biscuits filling the cabin with a smell that softened the walls. When she thanked him for chopping extra wood, he only nodded, but his hands worked faster after that. Down in town, folks started counting days. "She's still there," Hank told the others, spitting into the dirt. Mrs. Weaver just smiled. "Maybe she ain't like the rest." By the 5th day, the snow deepened. Boone came back from trapping with frostbit fingers and eyes that couldn't meet hers. She took his hands without asking and rubbed warmth into them. He flinched at her touch, not from pain, but from something older. Fear that gentleness might undo him. "You don't have to fuss," he muttered. "I know," she said, still rubbing, "but I want to." And for the first time, he looked at her, really looked, at the woman no one had wanted, standing in his cabin like she'd belonged all along. The storm hit that night. The wind screamed through the valley, snow slashing sideways. The roof groaned. Boone limped, his leg torn from a fallen log. He tried to saddle the mule. "You'll go to town," he ordered, voice hoarse. "Storm'll kill you if you stay." Maybelle set her jaw. "Then it'll have to kill us both." He stared, breath ragged, anger masking the fear in his eyes. "You ain't meant for this, woman." She stepped close, trembling but unbroken. "Then who is Elias? Who decides what a woman's meant for?" The room went still, except for the fire's slow breathing. She tore sheets into bandages, ground herbs into paste, sat by him through the long night. His fever broke at dawn, and when he woke, she was asleep in a chair by his bed, her hand still on his. Outside, the storm had softened to silence. By the time spring came, the mountain had thawed, and so had Boone. He started leaving small signs, fresh logs stacked before she asked, a fishing pole mended and waiting by the door, a repaired teacup placed where she'd notice, but not be thanked. She never mentioned them, but her smile grew easier, her laugh richer. The mountain didn't echo with loneliness anymore. Down in town, word traveled fast. "The plump one's still up there," Hank said, almost offended. Mrs. Weaver just replied, then maybe the problem was never the women. When Maybelle rode into town that April morning, everyone stared. She carried baskets of fresh bread, her face sunlit and alive. Children ran to her, drawn by the smell. Men who once mocked her weight now fell quiet, unsure how to look her in the eye. Hank finally muttered, well, I'll be damned. Boone's bride lasted. Mrs. Weaver smiled gently. She didn't last, Hank. She lived. Back on the mountain, Boone sat on his porch, carving a small piece of wood. His beard caught the sunlight. The loneliness that once shadowed him had turned into something quieter. Patience. He watched the road she'd return on, the line of trees whispering her name. That evening, when Maybelle rode home, the valley burned gold. Boone led her behind the cabin to where the ground had been cleared. There, rough wooden frames sat in rows, small mounds of soil waiting. Didn't know what flowers you liked, he said, voice low. So I left it for you to choose. Her throat tightened. She dropped to her knees, fingers pressing into the cool dirt. For a moment, neither spoke. Then she reached for his hand and laid it over hers. We'll fill it together, she whispered. He nodded once. And that was enough. Above them, a hawk turned slow circles over the valley, the light catching its wings. The same mountain that had once broken every woman now held this one gently, like it knew it had been forgiven. The camera would linger here, the rough man, the tender woman, the small patch of earth ready to bloom. And if you listen close, you could almost hear the old narrator's voice drift through the wind. Maybe the mountain never needed taming. Maybe it was just waiting on someone who'd stay long enough to listen. So if the world ever tells you you're too much, too soft, too heavy, too hopeful, remember Maybelle Carter, who stayed where others ran and taught the mountain man how to love again. The sun sinks behind the ridge, gold turning to blue, and the cabin windows glow like a heart learning to beat again. Like, share, and subscribe to Frontier Myths, where every legend hides a heartbeat.